We're talking about how to help our kids build great relationships, whether with friendships or within their family. And today we're talking about that age bracket for, Charlie Brown and Linus and
Or Lucy.
or Lucy. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, this is the 7 at 7, and we're really glad that you are here. We are talking through how to help our kids build great relationships. And
Absolutely.
it's such an important thing. And honestly, a lot of parents don't think much about it, put a lot of time into it, and it is so important. And so today we're talking about the grade school years. And this is a time in life where there's a lot of great things that happen and some that are kind of difficult. I don't know about you, I've got a mixed set of memories during this season in my life, and maybe you do too. And so today let's talk a little bit. Let's start with the promise. There's some exciting things that happen as you begin school and walking your way through the grade school years. I mean, what do you see?
There is tons of promise. We also call these years the golden years, where everything can be fun or turned into a game until about third and fourth grade when they catch on to that, and then it's not so fun anymore. That's
Sometimes.
probably the part you remember. But it's so fun in learning more awareness in the world around them, awareness in other people. And this is when we start to really hone in on that saying that we always hear, whether or not this is fair or not fair. Strong sense of what is fairness. And as parents, we get to help navigate and teach what is fair to our kiddos.
Yeah, well, and this is the time I remember like recess.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
out there, it's a free for all, and you're trying to figure out who are you going to play with and what are you going to do. And when I was a kid, we played exciting games like Red Rover,
And broken arms.
and we did some
absolutely.
of that kind of stuff, and we'd help our friends off of, like the monkey bars, also broken arms.
Blisters from how long you
Oh,
can hang on
those
those
were the
monkey
good old
bars.
days. But they don't let our
Yes.
kids do that anymore.
No.
But they do let them out there on the playground, which means they're out there kind of mixing it up with and trying to figure out what team they're going to be on, or who's going to be their friend, and who are they going to play with, right?
As an administrator, I spent every afternoon settling issues from the playground.
Uh-huh.
You always knew what time it was. If you didn't eat by this time of the day, you weren't eating till 4 o'clock.
I see,
Because
it's the
everyone
playground.
goes to recess, and there's always something
Yeah.
that happens.
So this is a season when kids are really figuring out how to navigate relationships, right? For good or for bad. And these things that you've been teaching your kids about how to act like Jesus and respond like Jesus and think like Jesus, it begins to really show up. It's like a pop quiz every day at 2:15, right?
Not only a pop quiz, but here's the things where you know what's going on at home also comes out. Because everyone has some sort of idea of how to relate to one another by the conversations that they have at home. My favorite was, well, miss, my parents said that I better not start it, but if someone else does, I better finish it.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Did you ever hear that one?
Solid,
Right? Solid advice,
parent
right?
advice.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So really, it's your parents' fault you hit that person,
Right.
right?
Sure.
So those sort of things for real happen. So the conversations you're having at home, you better believe are going to bleed out into this playground area.
Yeah,
as
and maybe
well.
it's different than for guys and girls. I mean, I know as a guy, some of my best memories during this time period were like being on teams, baseball teams, football teams, basketball teams, that feeling like I was a part of something and we were competing together, and there were some relationships that were built around sort of that competition. What's it like for girls?
A lot of that, except a little bit of drama if you weren't chosen for the right team, or if your team didn't win, then it's got to be somebody else's fault that they didn't win.
I see. So there's some stuff there. So there's a lot of promise, new friendships, first friendships, a lot of stuff that begins to grow. And then there's also some pain. There's some pain during this time. We've kind of already tipped into it a little bit.
Yes, we've
right?
tipped into that. So the conflict is going to happen, especially if there's competition, right? The touch football always turns into tackle because we're competitive and it's hard to rein that in.
Yeah.
Right. And
I
then-
liked that, by the way, when I was a
Yes,
kid.
Absolutely, until
sure.
somebody gets hurt.
Uh-huh.
Right. Broken arms are a real thing at recess. It's a problem
Right.
for everyone involved. Never a fun phone call to make to a parent. Right? So pain involved certainly in the fact that you could have some disagreement or the game could go too rough, but also some hurt feelings in somebody didn't want to play the game I wanted to play, or I wasn't chosen to be on a team, or I'm sitting over here by myself because I don't have anybody to play with.
No, yeah, right. And I was going to say, this is also the time where social circles begin to sort of develop, and there's people in this group and they're not in this group. And then that means there's birthday parties, everybody's talking about them, but somebody doesn't get invited to that party. They overhear it in the classroom. Some things that sting. And as a parent, like, wouldn't you want to keep your kid from that as much as possible? But honestly, there's probably some learning things in that, right?
So many valuable lessons that can be taught within that. And even in the midst of it, I know educators are great at this and being eyes and ears to what is going on and helping kiddos in that moment. If you see someone sitting by themselves, like, hey, why are you by yourself? So and so's playing this, so and so's playing that. What about this over here? Teaching them to start to take that initiative as well, which we kind of talked about yesterday a little bit too, but even more so now. As you get into this age, there's no reason for anyone not to have some conversation starters at that point, to be involved or to play something else. And typically, this is where you learn a little give and take. Sometimes people are isolating themselves because they don't want to cave on participating. They're hanging out because they don't want to play what everybody else is playing. And we have to teach our kids, like, sometimes if you want to play a game or you want to have other people to play with, you have to share ideas. They're not always going to want to play the game you want to play. So maybe today we play this and tomorrow we play a different game.
That all sounds like some high-level negotiating going on.
It happens.
It's a big deal. I can see
happens.
that. I love this idea of the initiative, though. Like, okay, well, they're choosing up teams, and I didn't get chosen. And so my response to that is being dejected, or I'm like, oh, you know what? I can go find somebody else. We can go do something else. And I can take the initiative and be okay about that. Helping our kids to get that kind of confidence, take that step, I know is not a small thing, but we would all want that for our kids.
And some resilience after the fact. Like, the world didn't end. And this is the conversation we would have in our house all the time. But, like, the next thing still happened. Like, the day didn't end. It didn't have to be ruined because of this one incident. Like, how can we move on to something else? Especially in a school where you're one of 22 kids in a classroom. There's someone else to play with.
Yeah.
Let's go see who else needs a friend. If you're feeling this way, someone else probably is somewhere else. Go find them.
Yeah, maybe you heard me say this before, but when I talked to my mom about these years, this is often when she said, I knew that my son or my daughter was going to go to school and she was going to be beat up all day long by all kinds of things that happened, maybe broken apart. And when she came home, my number one job was to put him or her back together and send them back to school the next day. And parenting is so important in this phase. And especially when it comes to helping them talk about the relationship experiences they have and making sense of it all, filtering it through the Jesus lens, and then figuring out how am I going to go at it tomorrow.
Absolutely. And this is where our kiddos really started to learn the difference of perhaps not everybody else has it just like me. Perhaps my house might be different than somebody else's house, when they were trying to figure out, like, why is so-and-so always mean to me? And these would be incredible moments for us to talk about. Well, maybe they don't have two parents at home that they're going to. Maybe their situation is a little bit different. Instead of being mad at them, why don't we pray for them?
That's really good. Well, the last thing we're going to talk about really briefly is just strategies and the fact that as parents, what do we do? And one of those is, of course, talk to your kids, make it the practice every day to visit about what happened during the day. Talk me through it. How were things at recess? And get them talking so that you can help them to kind of make sense of the world that they're encountering every day. Other strategies you think are important?
Yes. Also making them point out what they did. Lots of times we get into this place where this person did this person did this, and we want to change their behavior. Really helping students know, your own kids know, you can't change someone else. The person you have control over is you. So how did you show kindness today? What did you do that made you a good friend to others today? So that they have to be reflective on their own practice and their own things that they actually have control over. And if there was some sort of conflict, helping them talk through that and coming up with some strategies on what they could do the next time. So the next time this happens to you, what are some options that you have? Do you walk away? Is this a time where you need to go get an adult help in this situation? Or can you offer some other sort of advice? Like, you have to give them some tools and tips so that the next time they're in that situation, they have a plan.
Yeah. And this is also that season in life where I think it's so important that Christian parents find other Christian parents who've had kids that are about their age and begin doing stuff with them together as families, maybe as early as when your kids are 2 and 3 and 4, so that by the time your kid gets to 1st and 2nd grade, they've got 2 or 3 buds, and you know that those guys or those girls already share a lot of the same values that your kid shares. And so if things go bad on the playground, they got somebody they can go to. They've got somebody that they know and they've got relationship with, and you know that those kids have the same kind of values being reflected by their parents. I've often thought that some of our best friends ought to be Christian friends, and that's important. It's something parents can do, help make a reality to help our kids.
Well, and we all need a community of believers that are helping us in this process, right? One, it helps in the carpool line if we're carpooling and it's a little bit shorter. But if you have a parent dropping off food for one kid, like they're quickly checking in on their friends' kids. It takes a village, but not just any village. You want your village to be particular about who you have eyes looking at your kids and helping you in this process.
Yeah, boy, this grade school season is such an important season, Mom and Dad. I'm sure we'll talk about these things more. Tomorrow, we're going to step toward junior high.
Woo, the good years.
Yeah, so you be looking forward to that. Thanks, Alicia, for your help today. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.